the class tonight is on critters. This is not a third world country problem. This is a big time in America problem. Whether modern medicine wants to acknowledge it or not, which they often don't, which ends up leading to long-term chronic illnesses because they
don't know how to diagnose it.
Don't know how to diagnose it, and they don't know how to treat it either. So, the creatures inside us. If you have any questions, as always, just throw up your hand. We'll address them right away. I do have some handouts, which actually I'm going to save these. I'll hand them to you as we get there. But good bacteria. I like to start with this because we have to understand that there's lots of good bacteria in our system. In fact, there's trillions and trillions of good bacteria in your system. If you've ever heard how many cells are in the body, does anyone know how many cells are in the body? It's a trick question because nobody knows. But there's trillions of cells in the body. They say 6 trillion, 10 trillion, you hear all kinds of different things. But the bottom line is what we know of how many, our best guess of how many trillions of cells are in their body, there's about 10 times more bacteria. There's a lot more bacteria in our system on every inch of our body than there ever will be cells in our body. So that's why it's helpful to understand that bacteria is very important in our world and in our bodies as well. So some of the functions that they do, they create B vitamins, they create vitamin K, they help us to assimilate our nutrients, they keep invaders out by actually producing hydrogen peroxide and other acids to destroy incoming pathogens. Boost the immune system. A lot of people will say that 80% of your immune system's in your gut. Preventing allergies, that's huge. So many people, we did a class on allergies, there's so many people that have long-term allergies and they don't know how to fix them. And it's a combination of poor immune system, poor beneficial bacteria, and undigested food in their bloodstream. It's the main cause of all allergies. And then the last one that a lot of people don't realize, and they do more functions than this is just some of the main ones, but they produce serotonin. 80% of your serotonin is actually produced in your gut. So it's another reason, when people have candida and these other infections, and that they're depressed all the time with poor digestion. There's a direct correlation there. Then the bad and the ugly. I didn't separate those out. First thing I just wanted to mention is hospital resistance. We've all heard, and I don't know, some of us have heard this, some of us haven't, but how many people are getting sick and getting infections at hospitals? And do we really understand why that is? The reason is hospitals are so focused on being perfectly clean and killing all germs and bacteria, they use these hardcore, intense, powerful cleaning agents and sanitizing agents. And it works to kill 99% of the bacteria in the hospitals. But that 1% is so ridiculously strong that it's what's causing all these infections. So many people, I think everybody has known someone that's gone to the hospital and gotten an infection while in the hospital. It is so common because what we're going to discuss more later is the intelligence. These are living organisms. Germs and bacteria and viruses and parasites, they're living organisms. They have intelligence. They know how to adapt. They know how to change. They can morph into different organisms. And that's why you hear about these superbugs, these super germs that we can't kill. And hospitals is the worst place for that because, again, they're so focused on trying to kill everything that the bacteria that do change and survive, they have no answer for. And that's one of the reasons antibiotics are so dangerous, is because and antibiotics will soon be, I don't know if it's going to be 5 years, 10 years, but we'll soon realize that antibiotics is one of the worst medicines we've ever used in modern medicine because it doesn't help with the problem. So along some of those infections we get, staph infections, you might have heard of MRSA, you might have heard a lot of doctors, or if you've heard of someone that had MRSA, say, well, there's like nothing you can do for it. It's just, it's resistant and it's dangerous, and you can lose a leg if you have MRSA. It's nasty stuff. But there's really good natural alternatives to these these types of resistance. Candida is basically an overgrowth of fungus inside the body when you get an imbalance. It's a modern day illness. Not that people didn't get fungal infections throughout history. We know that they have. I mean, we know what the South Americans used, when they had fungal infections. They used pau d'arco, they used other herbs, but it was pretty rare. Now, according to, for example, Donna Gates at Body Ecology, she'll tell you that 90+% of all people have Candida fungal infections, whether they know it or not. They might have some symptoms, they might not, but regardless, we all have an imbalance, and we'll kind of talk about why those imbalances happen. But what's really scary about Candida is when it's really bad and it's systemic and it's throughout the whole system, it actually morphs into a fungus. Okay, so when we talk about bacteria and Candida and fungus, they're all basically the same thing, but they can basically get nastier as they grow. And when they morph into fungus, they can actually grow, they basically dig their tentacles into your intestinal tract and latch on. Okay, and they live there. They set up shop. And we continue to feed them with sugars and the foods we eat, and they just continue to grow and repopulate. And then what happens, oftentimes when we go in to kill them and destroy them, they pull their little tentacles out, and then we got holes in our intestinal tract, which leads to leaky gut syndrome, which leads to a whole host of other problems. And then, of course, you got parasites, which is a totally separate deal because there's thousands and thousands of different types of parasites. I mean, we put hookworms and pinworms. I mean, there's so many different parasites. And we're going to watch a video on parasites that'll kind of be an eye-opener for you on that one, done by a guy I know, Marcus Rothkrans, if anybody's heard of him in Las Vegas. You know Marcus?
He's my favorite.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
So he did a really, really good video on parasites. Did you see it?
Mm-mm.
It's really good. And studying parasitology is just fascinating because, again, these creatures, have an intelligence. They know how to run. They know how to hide. They know when to come out. They know how to adapt in our bodies. Once they get into our bloodstream, they can go hang out in the different organs, in the liver, and the kidneys, and the lungs. Yes.
I have a question. Have you ever heard of Angelos Vanderplants?
Yeah.
That eats raw food. He was telling one of my clients that it's good to have parasites because they help eat the dead cells. Because we were thinking, we gotta wipe them out, get rid of them. And he says, no, they serve a purpose. So maybe the too much of an imbalance of parasites is not as good as too little. But
I have never actually heard that. I mean, yeah, obviously with bacteria, we have Candida in our system that serves multiple functions when it's healthy, but I've never heard about that with parasites.
No, I was surprised about that, and I said, are you sure?
Yeah, and we know there's thousands of different parasites, and there's so much we know. As I always say, the more we know, the more we learn, the more we realize we don't know.
Yeah.
So, who knows? But they're always studying and finding new things.